everyone. And as Julie was saying, I'm really happy to be here today as I used to work at Algolia as a developer advocate. I used to co-organize this event with Julie, and I'm really happy to today be able to be on the other side and present my own side project here. So this is about Reddinx. It stands for Reddit Indexer. It's a way to index your favorite subreddit into Algolia to be able to search into it. Um, it came from a side project I created, and then I exported it into an NPM module so you can use it on your own favorite subreddits. So a little bit about me. I'm currently working at Doctolib as a full stack engineer here in Paris. I used to work at Algolia, and you can find me online under the nickname Pixelastic, either on Twitter or GitHub. Everywhere I can register this and all. But apart from this, this is more of a professional resume. On my personal life, one of the things I really like to do is play Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. I'm usually the game master, meaning I'm here to tell stories to people, engage the people around the table in fantastic stories. And one of the best way I found to do that is to place them into fantastic location, places that you can only imagine and you could never go to. Stuff like the heart of a volcano or the top of a snowy mountain, even a flying fortress in the sky, the den of some eldritch monster, this kind of thing. And a great way to transmit this atmosphere to my player is to use maps of the area that we use on the table, and we play around that. You can find a lot of great maps online on simple Google search, but one of my favorite places to look for that is on the /dndmaps subreddit. It's a place where everybody can post their own maps. There's a lot of amateur maps, stuff like I could be doing with a piece of paper and some drawing, but also some professional cartographers or designer posting their own maps. I like to go there because it gives me a lot of inspiration about places I could bring my players to. I look at a map and it brings some stories in my head I could tell about this specific location. It's completely free. It's updated daily. Every day people are adding new maps, great quality. And I really, really like broadening that to find some inspiration. What I don't like so much is I know like 2 months ago, I saw a really nice map about a pirate ship and I want to find it again. But then I have to use the search on Reddit, which is not so good. It's pretty slow. You type what you're looking for and then you press enter and wait for 1 to 2 seconds until you get some results. There's no typo tolerance, so you have to specifically type exactly what you're looking for. No place for error there. So it's pretty frustrating to use. And specifically in my use case, I'm really interested in the maps, in the visual aspect of what I'm looking for. So the results are displayed. Everything is on the same line. There's just a small thumbnail of the map and everything is cluttered together. It's really hard to find relevant information. So I had a look at the Reddit API. Because I knew Reddit had an API, I never had the chance to use it before, so I had a look at it, and it's actually one of the best API I ever tried, because you do not even need authentication to query the API. There's no API key or token exchange or whatever. You just type the URL in your browser, and you got access to all the data in JSON format. This is like the endpoint you have to type to get information about a specific post. This is the post ID, and the prefix is something specific to Reddit, like T3 means type 3. Type 3 are post, type 2 are subreddit, I think, and type 1 are users. So once you get the unique ID of a post, you can get a really, really long JSON with a lot of information. This is just an extract of everything you can get from a specific post, but there's a lot of information you can get on the API. And once I had that, it occurred to me that it's the perfect recipe. I've seen that before. I find a website with great data, crappy search, but an API. It screams to me Algolia side project. So there's definitely something to do with that. So I went to work and I created this website. So the URL where you can try it, it's on gamemaster.pixelastic.com/maps. And this is a list of all the maps that are coming from this subreddit, indexed into Algolia and searchable into a much more useful search experience. I'm going to do a quick live demo of what it looks like. So this is the live website. It's a Pinterest-like display where you have all those elements that do not have the same dimension displayed next to each other like bricks in a wall. and you can scroll down, and there's some kind of infinite scroll. When you go down, new results are loading. There's everything you could or expect from Algolia, like the speed and the typo tolerance. I was talking about looking for a pirate map, so I just have to type pirate and I find it. And when you click on it, you have access to the high definition file of the actual map. So this really solved my issue. Thanks to that, I can now waste a lot of time on this, browsing the maps and finding exactly what I want. So let's see how it was built. There's three main steps. The first one is fetching all the data from the actual Reddit. Then you have to keep it fresh, meaning like your data has to be updated every time something new is posted on the subreddit. Otherwise, it's going to get stale pretty quickly. And then you have to build this search UI around it. For the first one, first part, so fetching all the data, I mentioned using the Reddit API. It's really great, but there's some limitation. Using the Reddit API, you cannot get the list of all the posts of a specific subreddit. You can only get the most recent. And what recent means for Reddit, it really depends on the subreddit. It can be the last 500 or 5,000. It kind of depends. I'm not exactly sure how it works, if it's date limit or number of posts. The thing is, if I want to get the list of all the posts in the creation of the subreddit, I cannot. But thankfully, there is another API called PushShift that is available on. It's a guy that is that is listening to every event that are occurring on Reddit, and whenever something is happening, a new post is added. It will be copied into its own Elasticsearch cluster. It's nice because you have an exact copy of everything that is happening on Reddit. It's not so good because you don't have the most updated version. You have the data of the post at the moment it was published. So as you can see, there's kind of a mirror between what the Reddit API is giving us and what the PushShift API is giving us. So by using both at the same time, I was able to get a pretty exhaustive data set of everything from the creation of my subreddit. This is the kind of structure I finally created. So when you run the script, it creates a data folder with one folder per year, and then underneath one folder per month. And in each month, you have one file per post. So those are not the raw return from the Reddit API. It's slightly transformed to better fit into an Algolia record. So you have the title, you have a picture object with the different dimension of the same thumbnail, and you have a score object that you can use for your custom ranking, tags to use for faceting, and so on. Now, the second part is how am I keeping this data fresh? I want it to be updated regularly, but I don't want to do that manually. So there are two questions you have to think about, the frequency and the quantity. The frequency is how often did I want my data to be refreshed? New posts are going to be posted every day, maybe every hour, but I don't need nor want to have my index updated in real time. So I decided that I could run that once a day. Once a day, I got all the posts from the past 24 hours added to my index. That's good enough for my use case. So I have a job on Circle CI, a cron job running every 24 hours that is going to fetch the latest one every day and adding them to my repository, committing and pushing to GitHub and pushing to Algolia. Now there is the quantity. It means how far back in time do I want to fetch records? Because on Reddit, you can still upvote posts that are 2 or 3 years old, but do I really need that data? I mean, people usually only upvote stuff that is recent. So technically, I cannot really afford to rerun the whole script from the creation of the subreddit every day. So I'm just going to fetch. I decided to go for 7 days. So I'm going to fetch all the posts that were created in the past 7 days and update their popularity every day. So once a post is more than 7 days old, its popularity metrics are frozen in time in my index and not updated anymore unless I rerun the whole script from scratch. That's good enough for my use case. If you want to do it on your own subreddit that might have a different frequency of posting and information. You might want to change that. But for my use case, it was a question I had to answer, and this is the most optimal way I found. Now for the UI, as I mentioned, I wanted to have something similar to Pinterest because I do waste a lot of time on Pinterest, and I wanted to understand uh, what were the psychological implication of why was I spending so much time there. And I understand that the infinite scroll make it seems like there's always something better to watch. The fact that not all elements have the same dimension means that most of them will be cropped at the bottom of the screen, and you want to scroll to get to it, meaning that you will have other elements that are cropped and you want to scroll to see them and so on. So I wanted to replicate this to see how hard it was, and because it seems to be like an interesting CSS challenge. The two parts are the infinite scroll. The infinite scroll is, most of the work is done through the default infinite hits widget provided by Instant Search. So it's like the regular hits widget to display the results, but it also provides you with a show more function that you call whenever you want to add more hits to the existing list. So I use that in addition to the intersection of the other JavaScript API. You put that on a DOM element, and whenever this DOM element arrives in the viewport, you can trigger a specific method. So that's what I did. I have some kind of invisible element in my DOM page, and whenever it gets close to the bottom of the screen, I call the show more, adding more elements. You can actually specify some padding, so it's not exactly when it gets into the viewport, but in my case, it's when it gets 102,000 pixels from 1,200 pixels from the bottom of the page. And then there is the Masonry effect. So it's this idea of having different blocks like bricks in a wall that do not have the same dimension, but still fit tightly together. So it's done using CSS grids. And when you're in a grid container in CSS, you define the width of your columns and the height of your lines. And then you say, oh, this element spans this number of lines and spans this number of columns. So the kind of trick I did here is I defined that one line was 10 pixels tall. And then for every single hit that is displayed, I say, oh, this is a really tall map. It will span maybe 40, 50 lines. This is a shorter map, it will span only 10. This way, I'm not expressing the dimension in exactly pixels, but in grid lines. And then the browser is able, through the whole CSS grid interpretation, to fit them the best way. Then I had to add some JavaScript event. So I have to know how tall my hits are based on the size of the image. The thing is, when the hit actually starts being displayed, I only have an image tag to the image, but I don't know the dimension of the image. So I have to wait until the download starts to get some information about the final dimension of the image. And once I have that, I can resize it. The little trick is that I do not want my user to see a hit really small, and then a few milliseconds later, it's going to expand once I get the dimension. So I actually hide everything until I have all the dimension to put it directly at the right height. Finally, the whole website is open source. You can find it on GitHub. I'm going to share the link with you if you want some inspiration, if you want to build something similar. But specifically, the whole part about taking data from Reddit and putting into records suitable to be pushed into Algolia, I extracted into this NPM module called Reddinx. You just require it. You define the name of your subreddit, and then you have those two methods you can call. The reddinx.initial with your subreddit name. It will do the heavy lifting of grabbing all the posts from the creation of your subreddit and saving them on disk, the whole year and months structure I showed you. It can take a few hours to run because it has to query a bunch of different API and download a lot of things, and it can take some place on your hard drive, but it will fetch everything from the creation of the subreddit. And then you have the incremental method that by default will only get update of the past 7 days, but you can pass some additional arguments to specify this window of time. And this is the script you want to be running in a cron job every day, for example. That's it for my presentation. I thank you very much. I hope it interested you and you want to build something similar. I want to finish on saying something that there's a lot of incredible data available online on a lot of websites, especially user-generated content, just like Reddit. And if you feel like the search is not good enough, uh, use Algolia. Take the dataset, dump it into Algolia, and build something that better suits your needs. Everything is better with search. Thank you very much. If you have any question, feel free to ask in the chat or directly here or on Twitter or anywhere. I'll be happy to answer every question you might have. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much, Tim. This was awesome.
Thanks.
We have Randy in the chat saying exactly that. That was awesome. So we have
Thank you.
one question for you from James. Congrats, Tim. Do you see any next steps or improvements of Reddinx in the future?
So currently, I've only tried on this specific subreddit, meaning that it works really well when you have a subreddit with a lot of images. Does not work so well when there's a lot of text or videos. I do not really handle that part. I would like to do it, actually. I think there's a few other hobbies of mine with subreddit I would like to index on that. Um, and definitely I need to write better documentation for the npm module because right now it's pretty sparse. But that's the future. It's making it a real module for people to use. So if you have ideas, issues, pull requests, comments, anything, I'm really happy to hear about it.